Somebody asked me recently what advice I would give a new agent entering the market, and I think they actually have a little bit of an advantage because they don't have any, for lack of a better term, bad habits to break. And I think when things are going really well and the market's booming and the money's just flowing, money can hide all problems. So oftentimes we get away from the foundational skill set that we developed to help get us to that point.
Hey there, I am Dr. Jason Ballara, and this is the Know Your Why podcast, where we explore the why behind success. Every week, I meet with real estate investors, veterinary entrepreneurs, mindset coaches, authors, and fitness professionals to uncover their why and how it drives them on the winding road to success. What is your why? Hi everyone, I'm Jason Ballara, and this is the Know Your Why podcast. Today I'm here with Beth Matthews. Beth is a dynamic real estate professional and owner of Envision Real Estate. She started her real estate journey in New York in 2009. It's an interesting time frame, so we'll probably talk a little bit about that. You shifted from pharmaceutical sales to real estate sales. So I'm very, very interested to hear the story. But first, I just want to say thank you for coming on the show. We started off with some technical glitches before we even got to the recording phase. So hopefully those are behind us and we will have a perfect, smooth running show. And again, thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me, Jason. Yeah, and I said to you before we started recording, that's because it's Mercury is in retrograde. So we couldn't have kicked things off without a few technical difficulties.
Yeah, exactly. Well, tell us about your story. I have questions just from reading your bio, but first let's just let people hear your story in your words, and then we'll just dive in from there.
Yeah, drug dealer turned real estate professional, legal drug dealer. But it's always kind of fun to kick it off and say, oh, I used to be a drug dealer and get people's eyebrows to raise. No, I graduated from college, and that was a coveted position. So I was working diligently to get into pharma. And a friend of mine looked at my resume and said, you have to have some outside business to business experience before anybody will consider you. And you need 6 months on your resume. And I actually used to go door to door and knock on doors to try to sell medium to small companies third-party shipping services, which is as terrible as it sounds. But I had a goal that I was going to make it in that position for 6 months, and I was going to succeed so that I could then move on to my larger goal, which was pharma. And I think a lot of times when we reach a goal that we've had our heart or our mind set on, sometimes it's a little anticlimactic. The first couple of years were great. And then I started to learn about a lot of the nuances, particularly in Western New York, and how highly managed care driven it is. And really started to feel like I wasn't sure I was moving the needle and really making an impact. Started to feel a little bit like a glorified caterer because everybody was willing to talk to me if I brought them food. And it wasn't landing anymore. And I thought, I can't do this for the rest of my life. But there's a lot of benefits. I was with a great company, great salary, company car, all of the things that you check the boxes. And I said, this is going to be the golden handcuffs if I don't get out soon. So when I was on maternity leave with my second daughter, I convinced my husband at the time that I was going to get my real estate license. He was not really keen on the idea of me giving up all of the great benefits and stability to go to be self-employed, especially in 2009. The market had, just taken a turn.
Yeah.
And I said, if I can't replace my income in 2 years, I'll give up this dream, but I need to at least try. So 15 months later, I was able to leave pharma. I worked both jobs for that period of time and replaced my income and never looked back.
That's an amazing story, and a funny. So you may not know this, but I'm a veterinarian, so I have dealt with the reps.
You have drug dealers coming into your office,
right? Yeah. So I when you said that everybody likes it that you bring food and you feel like a caterer, I honestly sometimes feel bad because it is a little bit like that. It's if lunch or treats show up, then people will come and hear a little pitch. But I do think it's a fairly thankless job, kind of doing that sort of all day, every day.
Yeah, it can be, yeah. But I don't know that that feeling of feed them and they will come ever really goes away. You know, we joke in the office that if it's a meeting without food, it should have just been an email. So I still know that if I feed people, I'll get a lot more
Yeah,
engagement.
yeah. That's the big downside to remote work, right? Like
Mhm.
when everything shifted to remote and Zoom, now there's not those nice free lunches and stuff when you get to
Right.
sit down and talk to everybody. So I also at one point worked for a large pharmaceutical company, and it is remarkable what some of those benefits look like. So I can understand the that sort of golden handcuffs that you spoke about. Why real estate? Why was that the direction that you wanted to go? Especially at 2009, a lot of people were
Yeah.
scared of real estate.
Yeah. Well, I'd moved around a lot as a child. My dad was in the military. I was a military brat, and then when he left the army, his job then took us into multiple markets. So I was really accustomed to moving every 2 to 3 years. I thought that was normal, and I loved houses and I loved architecture. I actually studied architecture for a period of time, and I loved the idea of creating my own destiny. And as far as the market was concerned, I thought, well, if I can make it when the market's down, then I'll have longevity and this can truly be a career.
Sure.
So I actually found the fact that the market was not strong to be an opportunity.
Yeah. It's, I mean, it kind of goes along with investing advice as well. Warren Buffett says that famous quote about be greedy when others are fearful, and fearful when they're
Hmm.
greedy. And I think I love the the mentality of, if I can do it now, then when things are good again, you'll have established yourself as the person, really the go-to person that was there when it was hard. And now, and it's kind of, I think we have recently experienced kind of similar shift in the market, not the same dynamics as 2008 and 2009, but similar. When interest rates shot up, there was a lot of people that were making a lot of money in real estate and happy, and oh, this is amazing, it's going to go great. And then I think, when the market shifts, a lot of people are just get very quiet and disappear.
Yep.
And sort of being someone who's sort of cut your teeth when it was that type of market, now you enter that realm again. It probably, certainly I don't think it is easy, but you know what to expect, how to be adaptable to that type of scenario because you did it already. So there's a lot to be
Right.
said to doing hard things when they're hard.
Yes.
um with that in mind, so I mean, tell me a little bit about your early journey. You're in Are you in upstate New York? Is that
Yeah.
correct?
I'm in
Yeah.
I'm in Buffalo, New York. Go Bills.
Yeah. Oh boy, I'm a Patriots season ticket holder. So,
Oh,
although at the moment you certainly have the upper hand, so I will.
that's
I
okay. You had a really fantastic long
Yeah,
run. So
yeah.
no
It's
hard feelings.
when you lose the greatest of all time quarterback, it's tough to maintain that level of competitiveness. But
Yes.
um, so the there's probably some unique points to that market. um, and also, again, sort of the time when you started getting into real estate. Would you talk a little bit about, kind of your early journey? You had the right
Sure.
mindset. You said, I'm going to do this when it's hard, and that'll help me. What did that look like? So I think people, again, we're kind of in that time right now where if people want to enter the real estate world in some capacity, it's probably a good time.
It is. And, somebody asked me recently what advice I would give a new agent entering the market. And I think they have a little bit of an advantage because they don't have any, for lack of a better term, bad habits to break. And I think when things are going really well and the market's booming and, the money's just flowing, money can hide all problems. So
Yeah.
oftentimes we get away from the foundational skill set that we developed to help get us to that point. So I was fortunate from the standpoint that all of my adult life, any career I've had was somehow sales related, whether I realized it or not. And by the time I got into pharma, I realized that a lot of the skill sets translated across industry. So it's not sexy, but I would be in the office every morning and I would make calls every morning. And I had a very solid schedule where then I went and fulfilled my obligation to my pharmaceutical employer. And at the end of the day, I went back to my real estate office, made more phone calls, and then ran appointments in the evenings and on the weekends. So I had to make a sacrifice of time with my family, which with two young children wasn't ideal, but I knew it was a short-term sacrifice for a long-time gain. And it's ironic that I'm just joining you now after having our monthly sales meeting, and I'm talking about the same things that I did in 2009 to the agents that are coming into the market now. We're outlining their day. We're talking about consistency. Um, until I had my brokerage, I'd never paid for leads. And really, the leads that I pay for were to give my agents more opportunities. So my entire business was built around circle prospecting, just sold calls in neighborhoods, for sale by owners. I'd go knock on the doors. I was already dressed up for my other job, so I had no hesitation knocking on somebody's door, and expired listings. So it's interesting. We say get back to basics, and I want to, scold myself that truly we should have never gotten away from the basics.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great point. And I mean, again, applies to whether you're real estate sales or you're an investor, commercial resident, it doesn't matter. Like the basics are the basics for a reason. And so, when we say get back to them, like sticking with fundamentals, the people that stick with fundamentals through no matter what the market cycle is, that's how you're going to have, success and longevity. A lot of people can be successful when the market's hot, as you said, kind of money hides the problems. And so it certainly is hard. You're balancing your W-2 job, and then you're starting to, make this transition, and there are sacrifices that go along with it. But the idea is that the sacrifices will take you to a better place in the long run, and allow you to grow from there. So from 2009 to, I guess, 2022-ish, the market just kind of steadily went up. Early part of 2022, then we had shift in interest rates, and not for the better. What have you seen on the residential side that's kind of what has been your experience over the last, say, 18 to 24 months?
At the end of the day, people are going to transact. And, I think it's really, I come from a very consultative place when I'm meeting with a client. And this is something that I instill in my agents is, most people don't wake up one day and say, hey, today's the day I'm going to sell my house. There's typically a significant life event, whether it's divorce, marriage, babies, death, kind of all those different ends of the spectrum. And when you can learn to be a resource to somebody who's going through a significant life event, then you're helping them on their journey. And that feels very different than being a quote unquote salesperson, which sometimes gets a negative connotation. But I do think that professional salespeople truly have an art and a gift that fundamentally they want to help. So I think a lot of it is mindset. And I know that's a little cliche, but the event is just the event. It's how you respond to it. And if you're constantly working to perfect your craft and provide value, then there's always going to be opportunity.
Yeah. And I guess it goes back to that, sort of fundamental, and that might be fundamentals of sales or just fundamentals of being a person that wants to help other people, right? There's not, it doesn't have to be, and again, like I've talked about this a lot on the podcast in reference to a lot of different things, but the interest rate is gets a lot of attention, but it's one number, right? It's one
Right.
piece of a puzzle, right? And so you have, there are a whole bunch of different things: interest rate, terms, price, as you mentioned, mitigating factors that are sort of, I don't want to say forcing a sale, but motivating people to be in that position where it kind of doesn't matter one way or the other, like they have to get it done. And ultimately, interest rates have been this high and substantially higher before, and people still
Yeah.
bought and sold real estate and still
Yep.
made money investing and stuff. So it's kind of understanding that whole bigger picture, and then just finding ways to help people with the scenarios that they're facing. I want to interesting timing here. Recently, there was the NAR ruling, and I'm not a real estate agent, broker. I don't do any of that. And so I see what gets put on, kind of in the media and stuff like that. But I'm interested in your take and kind of maybe a little description of how it was now, how this impacts that, and kind of what you expect for the future based on this ruling.
Yeah, so the NAR proposed settlement that we're anticipating is going to take effect in July essentially says that a listing broker can no longer advertise cooperating or buyer's agent compensation in the multiple listing service. And that prior to an agent even showing somebody a house, they need to have a prospective buyer sign a buyer's representation agreement outlining that they're representing that buyer. Candidly, for me, it's not a big shift. I've always worked with a buyer's representation agreement. I was fortunate that somebody taught me that, day one, step one. I didn't know any different. For those that haven't been, it's going to be a bit of an adjustment. I don't anticipate that there's going to be as much of a significant change as maybe the media is portraying. I do think that the media has a tendency to sensationalize things from time to time. And yeah, and as somebody that prior to graduating and going into pharmaceutical sales, I was studying to be a broadcast journalist. So when I see how far journalism has gone by the wayside compared to when I was studying, it's a little disheartening. So I always say, find the professionals and get the facts, because at the end of the day, the media wants the clicks and the views, and they're going to do whatever it takes to get those. Where in reality, can a seller still offer compensation? Yes. Is compensation negotiable? Yes, it always has been. It's always been negotiable. Where I see this as an opportunity is I think a lot of agents by default have gone into the MLS and said, okay, the seller is willing to pay X. That's what I'm going to accept. Where now we have the ability, when representing a buyer, to say, this is the value that I bring to the transaction, and this is the compensation I'm looking for. So we can actually determine our value instead of accepting what somebody is willing to offer us. And of course, you have to have a value proposition in order to make that worthwhile for all parties. But I really see it as an opportunity.
Yeah, and I think, again, not being in that space directly, but I've bought and sold houses, so I guess I've been on the opposite side of those commission-based transactions. And my thought in general in business, and what pay scales should be based on performance and value that you provide, like you said. And so I think, to me, it seems, as you said, like an opportunity for people to stand out, right? To be like, this is why you should, maybe someone's going to say, you should pay me a bigger percentage than what was kind of expected before, because I'm going to have these results for you, or whatever. So I think that the ability to kind of separate out high performers and people that truly are getting the job done, for whether you're representing the seller or the buyer or what, I think that I like that. I like things structured on a this is because I did what I'm supposed to do type of pay schedule. So again, not knowing everything about it and how it all works, but understanding, to me, it seems like it's probably a good thing, and could be good for folks like yourself who are established and can say, look, I have X years track record. I've closed all these transactions. This is what I will do for you, and really have it be I think sort of spelled out and almost marketed that way, instead of just you're selling your house, you pay this amount, and that's how it
No,
goes,
I completely
whether
agree. And
anybody
I think
does
it's
anything
in
for you or
part,
not.
right. And I think that's in part why the industry is, for lack of a better term, a little bit under attack, is I don't know that the majority of people in the profession have done a strong enough job really articulating what our value is. And so when all we're seeing on social media is, us handing the keys over and none of the steps that it took to get there, it's kind of like the reality TV stuff, $1 million listings and all that. And they're great shows, but they're not reality. And so if you're only ever showing the highlight reel and making it look easy, then I think sometimes there's a disconnect from what the value is.
Yeah. Yeah, that for sure. I mean, believe me, I've watched a lot of HGTV and whatnot, and I have worked in construction since I was a teenager, and so I see those house flipping shows, and I'm like, this is fun to watch,
Yeah.
and the basic concept of, you know, terrible rundown house to beautiful house that, someone's excited to buy is true. But what kind of the way it really works, the way it goes is typically not portrayed at the
Right.
down and dirty level. And so I'm
Yeah.
sure it's the same.
Yeah. So all that experience and you still haven't got a real estate license, Jason. What are you waiting for?
It's funny is I have I mean, I got it years ago, but I actually have on multiple occasions thought, I'm going to get my license just for, the reality is I was never really sure that I would use it in a way that was, um, I don't know. There are plenty of people who would be better real estate agents than me, and I'm like, I'll just work with them. So I like
Fair.
the construction side, but I don't necessarily see myself as a salesperson or even like equipped to help people with that. So I like the idea of being connected to good brokers and agents and have that that partnership. But
Yep.
with so you don't, I mean, you don't really feel like this is going to be much of a change for you kind of going forward.
Not for myself and not for the agents on my team. Uh, I have a tendency to attract a lot of newer, younger agents, and I like that. I like to be able to mold them out of the gate, more structured. We're very structured, and we have a great marketing team and transaction coordination team. So we get people that need to leverage the support that we have. And I have agents that have come in that have been doing this longer than me. Actually, our training and development lead, Gigi, she's fantastic, and she said, I never thought I'd change the way I did X, Y, or Z. She's like, but then when I hear you talk about it and teach it, it makes a lot of sense. And so, even somebody with longevity in their career, we can always learn something new. And that's really fun because she's got a whole new passion and love for the industry and she's evolving her skill set. And I think the people that take that approach will be fine. The cream rises to the top. And ultimately, the game hasn't changed. People will transact, but the playbook is going to change a little bit. And we're both NFL fans. My team's better, but
I can't even argue that right now.
The NFL changes the rules every single year. Something changes.
Yep.
And, I've never heard Josh Allen say, oh my gosh, well, the rules changed. I guess I'm going to have to start Ubering or I'm going to go get a bartending job. Like
Right.
they learn the new plays and they get in the game and they win.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's absolutely true. You do sometimes hear that the quarterbacks don't complain because the rules gets changed in favor of the quarterbacks most of the time because
Yeah.
we like to watch scoring.
Protect the quarterback at all costs.
Right. The defensive players don't like these rule changes, but regardless, they're still playing, right? They're like, this is not, this is not a good idea for us, but I'm going to figure it out and I'm going to adapt to what that new normal is. And so I think that it's a great analogy, and I think it really applies to any business, right? Because as a business owner and entrepreneur, it is not always going to go perfectly. Again, with the NFL analogy, like they typically script the first 10 15 plays or the first drive or two or whatever, especially on the offensive side. But at some point, if that's not working, you've got to, because the other team's going to adapt, right? So you just have to keep being adaptable learning from, challenges and changing your strategy to adapt to those challenges so that that you can continue to be successful. And it's just um, this is that the NAR ruling is that for agents, and I think, as we said, it'll be, you said, the cream rises to the top. People who get it and are going to be successful they're going to adapt and continue to have that success. And it's again, it's across industries for things like that.
Absolutely.
Beth, I want to switch gears. I want to ask you the questions that I ask every guest.
Sure.
First one is name the show's Know Your Why. So I, of course, have to ask every guest, what is your why? What's driving you? We heard about, kind of the early stages when you decided you wanted to replace your salary through real estate. But what, had a lot of success? What keeps you going?
Yeah. And I love the name of the podcast, by the way. And last year I did a lot of soul searching. I think, probably quite a few people can relate to this, that as my business grew and I brought more people into the organization, I started to lose my identity a bit. I tried to be everything to everybody. And so it really, it took a toll, and I had to take a step back and reevaluate, why did I get into this? Why did I go down this path? And it ultimately came back to the same thing that I felt when I got into the business, was I saw an opportunity for the industry, the profession, to be elevated. And so my mantra is, I improve lives and I elevate this industry every day, one agent at a time, one home at a time, because I don't want this to be an industry that's under attack. What we do is valuable. And I've been in the pharmaceutical world. I've called on doctors. I'm in New York State, so I know a lot of attorneys, and they're all wonderful. And I can look at those professions and say, yes, they're incredibly valuable, but no more so than what I do. And I'd like to see the industry, the real estate industry, be held at the highest regard.
Yeah, love it. It's for me, it seems kind of like I think people like to attack things, so maybe that's why. But I just I think it's kind of a funny, relatively harmless thing that to be under attack, right? Like it's, I think it speaks to people maybe understanding better, as you said, being able to explain your value proposition better to the clients. But at the end of the day, like selling your house or buying a house yourself is not easy. Like it's not like people, do for sale by owners, things like that. And the reason why you go and talk to those people is because it often doesn't work. Right?
Right.
So it's just like, there is, it is again, truly about just being able to kind of explain to people, this is what I do, let them understand it. And this is why it costs money, right? This is the value that we provide. Yeah. So,
and if I'm not providing value, then I'm willing to step away. I don't like to be in relationships in any capacity that there's not a mutual benefit and support and value.
Absolutely agree. And it just, that it, I don't know if this is a my age thing or just like experience or what,
29?
but it's like add 20. But I've really just got to the point where it's like, I don't want to do things that don't feel good, in the sense like working hard sometimes is hard and doesn't feel good, like trying to achieve things, but I mean it from a sense of, I want it to matter, I want it to have impact, whether that's on a small scale or a large scale, and I want to work with people I want to work with, and like ultimately all decisions now are just sort of like within that framework, which sounds a little bit silly and
no, not at all. I call it alignment. I don't need to work with every client. I don't need to attract every agent. I really truly look for alignment.
Yeah. And I think if you do what you say you're going to do, you do it well, you provide that value, then people will recognize that, and you don't have to like it becomes less sales. It's sales, I think, often has the implication of like convincing someone.
Right.
But I think I don't want to convince people to invest with me. I want to teach them why it's a good idea. Right? Like
Correct. And I love that.
I don't want them to just feel like I pressured them or tricked them into it or something like that. It should be because it's going to benefit you. That's kind of the way I see it is that simplified box I described is really about that kind of approach to people. Beth, tell us something about yourself that isn't common knowledge, a special skill or hobby. We already know that you're a Buffalo Bills fan, so you can't use that one again.
Yeah, I can't use that one. I led with that. Something that people don't know about me. It's kind of silly, but a long time ago, I think I was about 19, and I dated a young man whose father was an audio engineer for NBC and got us tickets to see Saturday Night Live, the taping, the dress rehearsal. And they decided to incorporate the audience in the opening skit, but they didn't want to use the live audience in case it went really badly. So I ended up having a very brief cameo on Saturday Night Live somewhere around 1998 or 1999.
Nice. That's
Yeah.
pretty cool. So you have to go back in the archives and find you in the audience.
Yeah,
there.
I'm trying to think. So Lucy Lawless, who was Xena Princess Warrior, was one of the guests, and Judge Judy made an appearance. I can't remember the musical guest, which is terrible, but I'm sure somewhere on YouTube it exists.
Yeah. I mean, it's all it's all out there on the internet somewhere. That's pretty cool. When people hear this and they want to reach out to you, what's the best way to get in touch?
Best way is through Instagram. I'm Beth by a Billion. Again, a nod to my Buffalo Bills. Sorry, Jason. I feel like you're getting on the train that I was on for a really long time, so I understand. And even at our worst, Bills Mafia is a passionate group. So every game, even with our terrible seasons, we'd go in and say, Bills are going to win by a billion. So I'm Beth by a Billion on Instagram. All my contact information is there. I love to collaborate. I love to support people that want to grow in their field. So please reach out, DM me. I'm happy to help.
Cool. Yeah. And I mean, I don't think we lost to the Bills for like 10 years or something. I mean, it was
you don't have to rub
crazy, it was a crazy run. And so I can't even be sad, but I do. I mean, this is sounds off topic, but kind of not. Like, I think that sports are a metaphor for life. I think that the passionate fans, right? So, Patriots fans, Boston sports fans, very, very passionate, Buffalo fans, like New York, the Northeast, I don't know why, but the Northeast has crazy rabid sports fans. Like,
yes.
And I'm sorry for those of you that live in other regions. It's not the same. It is not the same.
Oh.
I went to, well, I'll say this, college sports in maybe like different regions is the bigger thing over professional. But like when I'm from Boston, and then first time I lived in New England for like my first 33 years. And then I moved to Charlotte, North Carolina. I went to a Panthers Saints game like shortly after I moved there. I'm pretty sure I was the loudest person in my section, and I don't care about those teams.
You weren't rooting for either team.
Right. Like, I was like, those aren't my teams. And I was like, doesn't anybody here care? I literally was like, doesn't anybody care about this game? Like, is this not your team? And I didn't understand that difference. And it's like, I've lived in Houston, been to football games there.
Mm-hmm. Not the same.
Not the same.
You know what I think it is?
It's not the same.
They get so much sunshine and warm weather that they're
right. The rest of life is so good.
The rest,
you can't get it.
Yeah, exactly. They just don't have the energy to give to it. Where us from the Northeast, we're buried under feet of snow for half the year, and so we need to make a lot of noise and we need to move around a lot just to keep the body heat up.
Yeah. It must be something like. I mean, but I've been to Patriots games. Like, this is when Tom Brady was still playing, but I saw Patriots play the 49ers 5 years ago, 4 or 5 years ago, in Santa Clara. The stadium's not really in San Francisco, and it was so loud and crazy cheering for the Patriots.
Yeah.
It was we drowned out the Niners fans, and it was just like, but I think that happens, like that happens with all of the Northeast teams. Like I don't like the Yankees. That's just, I can't like the Yankees. One of my
I'm not
very
a
best
baseball
friends,
fan, so I'm not going to be offended by that.
It's like one of my very best friends, huge Yankees fan. We have that rivalry, but the Yankees, they travel the same. Like when the Yankees play here in LA, the Yankees fans are usually louder. The Red Sox fans are usually louder. I don't know what that is. I don't understand it, and I'm sorry for anyone who roots for these other teams and is offended by the questioning your fandom, but it's just not the same. And if you don't believe me, go to a Patriots game in November.
Yeah, I was going to say, attend
a Bills game.
Attend a Bills game, attend a Patriots game, attend a game in the Northeast, especially during the cooler weather, and you'll understand.
Yeah, go see the Eagles. I mean, all those like the Jets. Like, again, team. That's not my fan base, but like the passion for the sport is going to be the same. You're going to like, and I don't know what it is about the Northeast that does that. And this is total tangent off of what we're talking about, but I love.
It's okay. I could talk about football all day, every day. So sports, I draw a lot of parallels.
Yeah, it does. It really does. Like a lot of parallels to life and business and all of that. But I just love that passion for the sport, and it's just, and like, because it seems to mean more than that, and maybe it is because of the bad weather. I don't know, but it just definitely has a lot more meaning than just a game in a lot of ways for for people from that area. So funny enough, but the final question for you, and you touched on this before, but I do want to give you a chance to expand on it. I always ask people, what advice would you give to someone who's getting started? And so I always kind of like the guest to tailor that to whatever. Sure. Sometimes it's getting started investing. Sometimes if you want to talk about getting started as an agent, but you can take it in whatever direction that you think.
It's a great question. And now that you're saying it, and I think my advice really translates across any industry, and it's just play to win. Like, if you're going to get in the game, play to win. Watch the tape, take the reps, do the practice, take the hits, and that translates across anything, life, business, sports. Because if you're not playing to win, why bother?
I love that. And I love how sports metaphor this. One of my friends once said to me, the best position in the NFL is the backup quarterback. And I was like, what? Well, so and he's not the only person I've heard say that. And I'm like, no, I don't play to sit on the bench. I don't do things to not be in the game. Like, to me, that would be the most infuriating position on a team is like waiting for someone else to get hurt or fail. Like, I think it points to that, what you're saying about get in the game. You got to do something, and sitting on the sidelines and just watching the tape or watching someone else do it and talk about it is not. You're not going to get anywhere doing that. And I think that's, we all know there's some, I mean, Tom Brady was a backup quarterback when his career started, and that's okay to sit and learn, but that is not a long-term position, I think, in any, like, that's appealing to me, to stay, kind of on the sideline and not be in that game.
Totally agree.
Well, I had no idea how much we were going to talk about football.
Neither did I, but when it goes in that direction, I'm okay with it.
Right. It was great. And you were great. Thank you so much for coming on the show today. I appreciate the time. I appreciate everything that you shared with us. And it was.
No, thank you. I loved connecting. This was great. And I, now I can say I'm friends with a Patriots fan, which is not something that's easy for me to say.
Yeah, I know. I don't, you could just leave that as an aside,
Yeah.
but yeah, thank you, and for the folks that are listening, I know you're gonna love this episode, especially if you're a football fan, but a lot of other valuable things in there too. Please like, rate, and review the show, and thank you all for listening. Hey there, I am Dr. Jason Ballara, and this is the Know Your Why podcast, where we explore the why behind success. Every week, I meet with real estate investors, veterinary entrepreneurs, mindset coaches, authors, and fitness professionals to uncover their why and how it drives them on the winding road to success. What is your why?